Welcome back to the deep dive. Our source material today takes us to a really fascinating point of completion and quiet power. Day 7 of Hanukkah. For a lot of people, Hanukkah is all about the miracle of the oil, right? The light lasting when it shouldn't have. But if you look at the theological structure of the 8 days, day 7 isn't just about lighting another candle.
No, it's not.
It's a really deep dive into the spiritual meaning of the number 7 itself.
That's exactly right. The celebration is the context, of course. But our mission today is really for you, the listener, to grasp this core concept that the sources call completion through rest.
Right.
And this isn't just, a historical lesson. It's a massive, potentially life-altering shift in spiritual perspective.
And the central principle, the core truth we pulled from the sources about this seventh day is, well, it's profound. It's what God completes, humanity must rest in. When you get to day 7, as the sources describe it, the instruction is absolutely not about drumming up more energy or finding new tasks or striving harder.
It's the opposite. It's the complete opposite. Day 7 is about learning to cease without fear. And it's a very unique, kind of powerful rest that's born purely out of confidence, not exhaustion.
Not exhaustion. That's the key.
Yeah, it's the moment the system stops running on adrenaline and starts running on the conviction of finished work.
Yeah.
It really is the holy exhale of the whole journey.
A holy exhale. I like that. And to frame that properly, we really have to look at the journey we've been on for the last 6 days.
Yeah.
And it helps you see why day 7 is this necessary climax before you can even think about a new beginning.
Right.
We had alignment and identity on day 1, then government and dominion over our environments on day 4, and day 6 was all about humanity and our role as stewards.
And those 6 days, fundamentally, they're about establishment and stewardship and sovereignty. They're all steps of divine action flowing through humanity. They test your capability.
Right. And so after 6 days of all that work, all that establishment and effort, the ultimate question day 7 asks you is, can you trust God enough to stop? It tests your trust. I can do the work of days 1 through 6, but actually implementing day 7 rest, that often feels like the most active, the most difficult thing a person can do.
That friction is exactly the point. If you can stop, you've proved your trust isn't in your own capacity, but in the completeness of the system that's already been established.
Okay, so let's unpack that tension a bit. Let's focus on the number itself. We know 7 is significant, but what does it really signify in this theological framework?
Biblically, 7 is massive.
Yeah.
It's completion, fulfillment, divine satisfaction, and really covenant rest. It's like the numerical signature for enough.
For sufficiency.
Yeah, it's the moment where all the necessary elements are not just in place, but they're certified as perfect.
And the most iconic example of that has to be the creation story in Genesis. The source points out a common misreading. God didn't rest because he was tired from all the work.
Right, that idea doesn't make any sense for an omnipotent God.
No. He rested because, and this is the key, nothing was missing. When he looked at everything, the declaration was, behold, it was very good. The work was complete. It was fully satisfied.
And this idea of completion is, it's beautifully visualized in the Hebrew letter for the number 7, which is Zayin.
Zayin.
And it visually looks like a crowned sword or scepter.
Which creates a powerful contradiction, doesn't it? A sword or a scepter that implies power, action, maybe even conquest. But Zayin represents rest, ceasing, sufficiency. So how do the sources resolve that?
Well, the resolution is everything. The sword is a weapon, you're right. But it's not fighting an external enemy. It's fighting against self-reliance and anxiety. The sources state this directly, and it leads to this profound kingdom principle. Your rest is your greatest weapon.
Let's just sit with that for a second. If Zayin, the crown sword, represents the authority of rest, it means by choosing to cease, you are actually wielding authority. You're actively disarming the biggest internal enemies we all struggle with. Hurry. The fear of not having enough, that chronic anxiety, the compulsive need to be in control of everything.
That stillness, that confident ceasing, that's the most potent act of faith. Because it requires a complete surrender of the outcome. The crowned sword of rest just cuts through that universal fear that if I stop, everything is going to fall apart.
It declares the king has already finished the work.
Exactly. The one holding the scepter has already done what's necessary.
It shifts our entire understanding of effort. And it brings us to the next profound thing in the sources, which they call, very appropriately, the Great Kingdom Reversal.
Mm.
This is a truth I think most people, even longtime followers of faith, consistently miss about the creation sequence.
And it's such a critical insight into how we were designed. We know man was created on day 6, right? The final day of God's active creation work.
Okay.
But here's the reversal.
When did man experience his very first full day?
It was day 7. It was the Sabbath rest.
That is fascinating. So it means humanity was designed to begin from rest. We were meant to step into a pre-established, complete, sufficient system, not build it ourselves from scratch.
Precisely. We were not designed to strive toward rest as a reward that we finally earn,
Yeah.
or to just collapse into rest when we're totally exhausted.
Which is how most of us live.
It is.
Yeah.
But this flips the whole script. Rest is the foundation for obedience, for fruitfulness, not the result of it. It's the starting line.
But if that's the design, why is it that actually implementing this day 7 rest feels like the most countercultural, the biggest struggle a person can have? Why is it so hard to accept finished work?
Because we've been conditioned by what the sources call the culture of striving. Our default operating system, the one we learned from the world, tells us that our worth equals our output.
So if you stop, you're irrelevant.
You fear you'll become irrelevant, exactly. And the contrast between the two systems is just so stark.
You can really see the two competing cycles the sources map out for us.
The world system is basically work, which leads to exhaustion, which forces a collapse, which then only allows for this occasional, totally inadequate rest.
Yeah.
The energy source is just human striving.
And the goal is just more output.
More output. But the kingdom order that day 7 shows us is inverted. It starts with grace, which establishes your identity, who you are, not what you do. That identity enables rest. And from that rest comes sustained fruitfulness.
The energy source is completely different.
It's finished work. And the goal is faithfulness and alignment, not just production. So day 7 is a direct confrontation to the lie that your security or your value comes from being productive.
It asks you to stop measuring your identity by your activity level.
Yes, and the sources quote the core Shabbat declaration that defines this new starting point. You are accepted before you produce. That acceptance is the bedrock of any true rest.
Okay, let's get practical. If true rest, if Shabbat isn't just collapsing on the couch and it's not just inactivity, how do the sources define it? What are we actually doing when we rest this way?
They define it as an active alignment with completion. It's a state of being.
Yeah.
So yes, it means ceasing from self-effort, but crucially, it means releasing the outcomes and actively trusting God to sustain what he started.
So it's not just putting down the tools.
No, it's releasing the responsibility for the results.
That is a huge distinction because I can finish a project on day 6 and say it's done, but if I spend day 7 worrying about if it'll succeed or if I should have done more, I haven't actually rested.
No, you've just substituted physical labor for mental striving.
Exactly.
And that's why the sources bring in Psalm 127.1. Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. Day 7 rest is proof you finally agreed with the psalmist. The sustaining power is outside of you.
And this is where we have to ask the really challenging questions the sources pose directly to you, the listener. If you're looking at your own life through this lens of day 7, you have to answer. Can you stop working without anxiety immediately creeping in? Can you rest without feeling that debilitating guilt about what you should be doing? And most critically, can you trust God to work while you cease?
If the answer to any of those is no, then the sources would argue your foundational trust is still misplaced. And this whole concept, it finds its ultimate connection in the New Testament.
You're talking about Jesus' final declaration.
Yes. On the cross, his cry was not one of defeat. It was a cry of absolute finality. He declared, "It is finished, Tetelestai." That was the perfect certification of completion, the ultimate day 7 moment.
And the divine order of redemption follows that exact pattern, doesn't it? Moving from 7 to the new beginning.
It's the final model for us. I mean, think about the sequence. 1, the work was completed on the cross on day 6, Friday. 2, rest was honored. He rested in the tomb on day 7, the Sabbath. And 3, the new beginning was released, the resurrection on day 8, Sunday.
So the implication for us is clear.
It's crystal clear. You do not and you cannot add to what Christ completed. Your only job is to align yourself with the stability of that finished work.
Let's bring this back to the menorah image. It's day 7. All 7 candles are blazing. The work is done. The oil is flowing. What does that physical image tell us now?
The fire's bright, it's powerful, but crucially, no new energy, no new principle is added that night. The system is complete. It's certified. The miracle isn't a bigger flame.
The miracle is stable fire without striving.
Exactly. It's governing light at rest. It's like that image of the burning bush, you know. The fire is intensely present, the light is clear, but the vessel, the bush itself, is intact. It's not being consumed.
There's no burnout.
No burnout. The system is fully fueled, but it doesn't depend on human panic to keep it from crashing.
And this stability is why day 7 also works as a kind of a system audit for your own life. The sources point to the command for a Sabbath for the land every 30 years.
Leviticus 25, and that wasn't just good agricultural practice.
It was a theological test.
Absolutely. The whole purpose was to prove God could supply in that one Sabbath year what it normally took 3 years to accumulate. It tested the entire economic and agricultural system.
So we can audit our own lives with the same principle. If your whole system, your health, finances, your business, if it all collapses the second you pause, what does that prove?
It proves the system depends entirely on you, on your frantic, unsustainable effort. It's driven by fear, not faith.
But if you can step away and the light stays stable, if the system continues to thrive or at least stabilize without your constant input,
then it demonstrates that God is the true source, the sustainer of the system. And this realization leads us to correcting that final error the sources highlight, the difference between false faith and kingdom faith.
False faith being the one we default to, the anxiety model.
Yes. False faith always operates under that fearful assumption. If I stop, everything will fall apart. It's driven by this fear of chaos, assuming human striving is the glue holding it all together.
But kingdom faith, the faith of day 7, is the confident declaration.
If I rest, God will prove He is the source.
And this day 7 rest is so critical because it reveals whether you really internalized the grace of day 5 and truly honored the limits of your own humanity from day 6.
It really does. It determines if you're willing to surrender control or if you secretly believe the continuity of the universe relies on your personal adrenaline reserves.
So why is it so vital that we embrace this before moving to day 8? The sources call day 7 the womb of day 8.
I love that phrase, because you cannot rush from day 6 humanity, stewardship, straight into new beginnings, into day 8. You can't get to acceleration and supernatural increase without passing through that required period of rest.
Day 7 is the gestation period.
It is. It's necessary for the new thing to emerge. So the rest isn't a passive break, some spiritual timeout. It's an active, essential preparation for receiving more.
It's the ultimate alignment.
It is. Only a rested vessel, one that isn't burned out, one that's confident in the authority of finished work, can actually carry the resurrection power of day 8. Trying to jump from 6 to 8 is just adding more activity to an already exhausted system.
Yeah.
Rest is truly the womb of renewal.
So if we look back at the full 7 days now, the result of day 7 is completion and trust. And that's so different from the results of day 2, which was order, or day 5, which was supply. This is the final anchor. We conclude the 7 days with the ultimate kingdom anchor. You do not rest because you are done. You rest because God is faithful.
That statement just encapsulates the entire message of the seventh light. It's the profound difference between human accomplishment and divine perfection.
This deep dive really reveals one thing above all else. Whether you truly believe in finished work and grace, or if you still secretly carry the burden of sustaining everything yourself.
And to summarize the entire theme in a single sentence, the source declares this truth for your consideration. Day 7. Rest is not a reward. It is proof that the work is finished.
That distinction changes everything. And as you mull over that, we want to leave you with a final thought drawn from the source's declaration, something for you to explore this week.
Reflect on this idea of ceasing from striving, releasing outcomes, and critically, not carrying what you were never actually asked to sustain. What in your own life, what system, what constant anxiety, what relentless self-effort needs to be surrendered today to the stability of finished work, trusting grace to govern the outcome.